Hi everyone, Queeveen here from the comfort of my kitchen. In today's video, we are going back in time to take a look at a conjunction. We aren't going too far back. Some of you may know that we have gone back into prehistory to take a look at things on this channel before. We're only going back to 1988 in this video, and we're going to be looking for a conjunction between Uranus and Mars. Unfortunately, we may be able to see it from here in Ireland. It looks like there's also a conjunction between Saturn and Mars at the moment. So let's take a closer look. And there is Uranus right next to Mars. And we can see this nice nebulosity behind them as well. So Uranus and Mars are quite close together here. We'll get rid of the atmosphere and the ground, which the Trifid Nebula, that's a fantastic nebula to have in the background, one of my favorites. We'll move through time to see if we can get them any closer together, or if this is the closest. No, it does look like they are getting very, very close. In fact, this looks almost like an occultation of Uranus by Mars. Not exactly. Mars is a little higher in the sky. So we'll pause time to make sure they don't run away from us. And there we go. Mars is so close to being in front of Uranus that some of Uranus's moons are visible behind Mars. So that might give you an idea of how big the Uranian system is. The moons can orbit pretty far from the planet. There are several moons orbiting Uranus. I think the count is up to 29. Mars's two moons, Deimos there and Phobos, just barely visible. If we move through time a little bit again, we can see them moving. So Mars does occult Oberon, one of Uranus's moons, so that is interesting. I am quite surprised by how good they look here, but of course this is with the atmosphere turned off, so that will improve things. If we pull back, we'll see where this is occurring in the sky. If it's visible from Ireland, it's not. In fact, it looks like it will be on the exact opposite side of the planet where this would look best. And by the opposite side, I don't mean down south, but rather on the eastern hemisphere rather than the western hemisphere. So we will try to go around to pretty much the opposite side of the world. We'll also come down a little bit closer to the equator. So we'll aim roughly for here in Japan. So we will move around. There are the planets, all of those planets up above the horizon while the sun is under the horizon. And it is twilight rather than true darkness, or, well, a bit more than twilight. It's quite close to sunrise, but it is still dark enough for Mars and Uranus to be there. So here we are taking a closer look. You can see the moons look much more faint now without the lack of the atmosphere helping us. If we get rid of the atmosphere, maybe it's just a glitch with the software, but we can see those moons look much, much brighter when we don't have the atmosphere. With the atmosphere on, they're much, much fainter. And of course that affects the reduction by air masses there as well. So we can see Mars is there at magnitude 1, quite bright, definitely visible to the naked eye. Uranus is there at 5.74, so much fainter, but just about on the edge of being visible to the naked eye, just about visible. If you were in a countryside sky, of course, from here, we're looking at the sky quite close to sunrise, so that would, of course, block out Uranus, but there is also some light pollution being used here. 1988 was certainly recent enough for some places to have light pollution. Of course, not as bad and not as much as we have it today. Mars and Uranus are very close together here, and because Mars is so much closer to us than Uranus is, by changing our position on the Earth, we should be able to change where they are appearing in the sky. So let's see if we can make some adjustments, similar to trying to find the best place to see the eclipse. There is going to be a certain place where this looks a little bit better. So let's see if we can. I think moving closer to the equator should help. but it looks like they're only getting further apart, or kind of sliding past each other rather than coming up to a perfect alignment. So we can see Mars is moving much faster than Uranus. We can see it kind of zooming past, but I think we may have to travel quite far in order to get these things to line up better, if they can line up better at all. We'll get rid of the atmosphere. We've moved so far down on the planet that the sun has re-risen. We can see that Oberon is now more passing directly behind Mars, not just passing over kind of the top of Mars. So things have gotten a little bit closer. Let's move further south. Well, we can now see that Oberon is practically under Mars rather than at the top. Maybe moving in the opposite direction would be better. That does bring Mars under Oberon, a little closer to Uranus, but unfortunately not quite enough. Not enough to cause an occultation. But that does show where we see Oberon relative to Mars is certainly showing a little bit of the effect of parallax. While we're quite high on the planet, Mars appears to be under Oberon. If we go too high up, it goes under the ground thanks to the angle of the ecliptic, but that's okay, we can keep going. So we can see that Mars here is kind of under Oberon. If we move back in the opposite direction, we can see Mars kind of coming up, covering Oberon, and if we keep going down into the southern hemisphere, there's Oberon about to come out the bottom of Mars, the south pole of Mars. So we can see parallax having an effect here. This motion that we're seeing isn't the real motion of the planets or the moon. This is all down to us changing our position on the Earth and how that influences our view of the planets. So it does look like the further north we get, the closer Mars gets to Uranus, but I think we will run out of planet before Mars gets close enough to Uranus to have any sort of occultation. Indeed, that does seem to be the case. But this is a very interesting, very close conjunction, and it is a multiple conjunction. Uranus, Mars, and Saturn is quite nearby as well. I'll turn the atmosphere back on and we'll take a closer look at Saturn while we're here. I think something else was labeled as we were zooming in and out. Presumably just one of Saturn's many moons, over 100 moons around Saturn and only 29 around Uranus. Saturn has close to 200 moons. Jupiter has just over 100 moons. So these larger planets do have many more moons than we do. Neptune also has quite a large number of moons. So that is the conjunction. It was suggested to me by a commenter on this channel. So if there are any similar astronomical events that you would like to see in the past or in the future, you can leave them in a comment and I will go and take a look. We've now come back to Ireland and we can see that Mars and Saturn, well, Mars and Uranus, when they're actually above the horizon as they are here, they're going to be moved further out of alignment, just as we saw at the start of the video. But it does look like this close conjunction was visible from everywhere. Mars and Uranus were still fairly close together when they came up for us here in Ireland, not quite as close as they were in, for example, Japan. If we take a look with binoculars, we can just about see Mars and Uranus. If I get rid, and Saturn of course, if I get rid of the planetary labels, it would be tough to recognize Uranus at this level of magnification. Of course, this is going down to smaller binoculars, so it gets even harder. A very large set of binoculars is showing quite a good view here. And here with a fairly small telescope, a Meade ETX90, there is Uranus. It looks like things are drifting, so we'll align them back up a little bit better. Now you might be able to see that little bit of a tealy blue color that Uranus has, just a little bit. Zooming in a little bit more, quite a lot more, now that we're using quite a large telescope. Oh, here we go. And we're still not seeing too much detail on Uranus. Here we can just about, so this is with a Meade LX200 16-inch aperture telescope plus a 14mm Plossl eyepiece, which is going to increase the magnification a little as well. So with this level of magnification, in fact, we'll get rid of everything that's in the way. We'll very quickly hop back to Japan, hopefully. Yes, I am still focused on Uranus. We'll move through time a little bit here and see. Okay, we must be going in the wrong direction because I'd expect Mars to have come into, oh, there we go, zooming past, because Mars is orbiting the sun so much faster than Uranus. There we go. There is Mars passing just in front of Oberon, just under Oberon. So we can see Mars, a couple of its moons, and Uranus and its moons there. Not with the atmosphere turned on, unfortunately, just because it's so close to daytime when this occurs. And because of the position of these planets in the sky, they're going to be quite close to the sun in the sky. It would be very difficult to find a location where this is visible in darkness. And if this was visible in darkness, these planets would be much closer to the horizon, and that's going to make them a little bit tougher to see as well. But I hope you enjoyed this look into the past at this long gone conjunction. As I mentioned, if there is anything that you would like to see on this channel, all you have to do is leave a comment mentioning the event and the date, and I will go and take a look. If you did enjoy this video, then please do like it. If you like this kind of content, then please subscribe to my YouTube channel. And if you'd like to read this information, you can do so on my website, queeveenscontent.ie. Thank you very much for watching, and hopefully I'll see you back here next time.